we gave you guys, I was working with Chris and then Jeremy, we gave you guys the crummiest spot ever, and you came through. Next year is going to be different. We're going to have a full 2-day on the right time.
No, actually,
I really want to thank you guys for being flexible, coming Friday night and then Saturday. Really, really
I
nice.
mailed it to another.
So next year we're going to do something a team tournament on a Friday, and then a regular 2-day for Saturday and Sunday.
Play video games.
And the challenge that I have next year, guys, is I have triple the space. So I need you all to get at least one friend to come to next year, which means that I want you to have as much fun as humanly possible today. So if you need help in the fun factor, please talk to me. This year we have a painting competition that you might not know about. Please Mr. Pieces, Dennis can help you with that. Dennis is over there with your shirt. There's a $500 purse for the Dragon Slayer X this year. We are also selling swag for the first time. So we have these cool shirts. These are $25. They're up front. And we also have a wonderful pipe class for $5. And in short, I just wanted to give my support to Jeremy for coming through and judge this thing. We've got a bunch of prize support for you guys tomorrow. We have wonderful trophies that you've seen, and I'm really excited that you guys are here. So thanks again so much, guys, and I hope you guys have a great time. Take care. All right.
Okay, now that everybody's here, welcome, following Mike, to the first UPG gaming event. Greetings, everyone, at Dragonfall. Couple things. We're doing something new this year. We're going to be doing an open book test tomorrow. 20 questions. It's going to count towards your overall score. It is open book. Basically, rule book, the latest FAQ, Clash of Kings 2017. Those are the 3 references. When you do it's a 20-question test. The first person to get the highest score turned into me will be the one that wins the award for it. But whatever your score is actually your overall. You answered that as if I were serious. If you just answer the question, that's fine. But if you reference where you found the information and put your reasoning for selecting that, you can get 5 bonus points if you do that for all. So up to 25 points added to your total score. So that's going to be for tomorrow during the lunch.
And you have to reference that for every single answer?
For everyone. For every single answer, you have to reference where you got it. If you just want to put
Can I say, do you have a dunce cap if somebody got some wrong and missed winning first place because somebody else asked them up because of the test?
I might be able to work on that. I don't have that yet, but I have that.
We'll get you a
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jerry, Ultimate Power Gamer, and I'm coming at you because I wanted to discuss the infamous test from the Dragonfall tournament. Basically, the test was put together because they were a few questions that I've either experienced in a game with somebody else, or I have viewed this these situations happen, and the wrong outcomes were given because people didn't know what the proper they either didn't know what the proper answer was, or it took up game time. So I thought, you know what, I picked out like 20 questions and got the answers for them. We announced that we were going to use it at Dragonfall, but basically we ended up not counting the scoring points for the questions for the tournament because I didn't actually put that the test would be it wasn't listed in the tournament pack. So because of that, we went ahead and just took that out. But it's a 20-question test. I'm going to go over the questions right now with the answers and the reference to find it, because basically you would have got 1 point, so up to 20 points for each question you answered correctly. And if after each question you listed your reasoning and or the page number where you got the answer from out of the books, and I listed the sources for where the answers could be found, you'd get a bonus 5 points total. So that would have been a bonus up to 25 points added to your score. But as I said, we did not use that at Dragonfall this year. So, oh, one more thing. There were 5 questions. The last 5 questions on the test were, they had pictures, and the questions were based on the pictures. Because I took the pictures myself and the quality was so poor, basically we were going to give everybody 5 points for that, because it wasn't even worth arguing over, because some people couldn't see the pictures well. So here we go. We're going to go over the first 15. So the first question I had was After being wavered from shooting, a Kingdoms of Men Knight Horde makes its headstrong roll and charges a regiment of Dwarf Iron Guard. Now, assuming the Knight Horde succeeds in hitting the Iron Guard, what D6 result would they need to roll to damage them? Well, the answer for that is they would need a 6+ because they were wavered. They made their headstrong roll. That means they could go ahead and act normal, but wavered goes to disordered, and if you're disordered, you lose your thunderous charge. So the references that I listed for that on page 66, 69, and 75 of the main rule book, or 19, 20, and 26 of the Small Player's Handbook. Question 2. A Dwarf Iron Rifle Horde sets up across from a regiment of Orc Gore Riders, which are deployed in difficult terrain. Both are standard 12-inch deployment. The Orc player gets the first turn and completes an advance order to move clear of the difficult terrain. On their turn, the Iron Rifle Horde shoots, inflicting damage on the Orcs, but they're not able to rout or waver them. On the Orc player's next turn, can the Gore Riders complete a charge against the horde of Iron Watch rifles? Well, the answer to that is no, because if they both started off at 12 inches, that means they have 24 and a micron space keeping them apart. The Gore Riders would have advanced the normal move out of the difficult terrain, so 8 inches, meaning they were 16 and a micron apart. The Iron Watch rifles shot, so they didn't move because they have reload. So at 16 inches and a micron, the Gore Riders would not have been able to make that charge. That was the reason for that. That would be found on page 84, 85 of the main rule book, or 35, 36 of the Player's Handbook. Question number 3. A Goblin Giant completes a charge out of difficult terrain against an Elf Palace Guard regiment. What D6 roll would the Giant need to hit the Palace Guard? The answer for that is a 4+. Now, you would have had to look up in this to see what a Giant needs to hit normally, but the Giant doesn't care about difficult terrain because it has the Strider special rule, which means it would ignore the difficult terrain and be able to hit normally. That is found on page 75 and 184 of the main rule book, and page 26 and 72 of the Little Player's Handbook. Question 4. Continuing with the example above, the Giant manages to inflict 6 damage on the Palace Guard regiment. What result needs to be rolled to rout them? Well, in order to figure that out, you'd have to look up what the nerve roll for a regiment of Palace Guard would be, and in this case it's a 15-17. Well, the Giant did 6 wounds to them, so that means it would have to get, to rout them, it would have to get a 17, so normally it would be an 11, but the Giant is brutal, therefore brutal adds +1 to the roll, so you'd only need to roll a 10 or better to rout them. For that question, it's on page 122 of the main rule book and page 49 of the Player's Handbook. Question number 5. The final turn has been completed in a battle between Orcs and Ogres. The scenario was Dominate. The final tabulations are complete. The Orc player has an Orcling Horde, a Troll Bruiser, and 2 regiments of Morax as scoring units. The Ogre player has 2 hordes of warriors and an Army Standard as scoring. Which player would be declared the winner? Well, in order to do this, you just need to look up the Dominate scenario to understand what the winning criteria would be. And for this particular one, the Ogre won. The reason for that could be found on page 43 and 44 of the Clash of Kings 2017 book. Basically what it is, the Orc player would only have, let's see, Orcling Horde is height 1, so it's only worth 1. A Troll Bruiser is a Monsters Infantry hero, so it's only worth 1. And then 2 regiments of Morax, that's 2 apiece, so that's 6 total scoring units. The Ogre player has 2 hordes. Well, a horde is worth 3, so that's 6, plus an Army Standard Bearer, also a Monsters Infantry hero, that's worth 1, so they would win 7-6 on that. Next question. An Orc Fight Wagon, an Orc Fight Wagon horde was wavered in the last turn from a horde of Goblin Spitters from shooting. In its next turn, if the Goblin Spitters are in its front arc and in range, can the fight wagon horde complete a successful charge against them? Okay, well, the answer for number 6, you would need to look at the Clash of Kings 2017, page 73 of the main rule book, and the Player's Handbook 24. Basically, the fight wagon got Fury. Now, the problem with Fury allows you to do a counter charge if you're wavered, but wavering and counter charge, that has to do with hand-to-hand combat. Because the fight wagon was wavered from shooting, it can't declare a charge and there's nothing to counter charge against. So the answer to this one would be no. Okay, question number 7. A Basilian Sisterhood Panther Lancer regiment carrying a loot token wishes to charge an undead zombie regiment in difficult terrain located 15 inches away. Can they legally make the charge? The answer to that is no. The reason why is it can be found on page 86 in the main rule book or page 37 in the Player's Handbook. Basically, the unit's carrying a loot token, so they have a move of 5, which means the maximum they could charge is 10 inches. Okay, question number 8. A horde of ogre shooters wishes to shoot at a Forces of the Abyss Abyssal Temptress located on a height 3 hill. The ogre shooter's line of sight passes over a Forces of the Abyss imp horde. What d6 result would the ogre shooters need to roll to hit the Abyssal Temptress? Okay, well, the answer to number 8 is going to be they need a 7+, so they would need 6s to hit, but only half the shots. Reasons for this can be found on page 61, 62, and 71 of the main rule book, and 15, 16, and 22 of the Player's Handbook. Basically, the Abyssal Temptress has stealth, okay? So the ogre is hitting on 5. She's on a hill, but they're shooting over a unit, so she has cover for that. So that would make a 6 plus stealth would make it a 7. You can't roll a 7, so therefore you get half your shots needing 6s to hit. Question number 9. A giant, which is height 4, stands in the direct center of difficult terrain, which is flat, meaning it has no height. The giant would not receive a cover bonus because it is more than 3 levels taller than the terrain feature. This is a true or false question. The answer to this is false. The reason it's false is because difficult terrain, it doesn't matter what height you are for that. If you are in difficult terrain, 50% or more of your base is within difficult terrain, you receive cover. So that's 9. That can be found on page 62 of the main rule book, or page 16 of the Player's Handbook, or the latest FAQ 1.6, pages 1 and 2. Question number 10. An undead zombie legion charges a horde of Forces of Nature Naiad and Snares located fully within difficult terrain. What d6 roll would they need to roll to hit them? Would there be any other consequences of the zombie charge? Well, once again, they would need 7s to hit, so that would mean 6s. They need 6+ in half their attacks. The reason for this is zombies hit on 5. If they're going to charge difficult terrain, they're hindered. That makes it 6s. The Naiad and Snares, they have ensnares, so that's -1 to hit, so that makes it a 7. And because you can't roll 7s, hand-to-hand combat is the same as shooting. You get half your attacks and you need 6s to hit. So question 11. Is it possible for a unit ending a Vanguard move on top of a loot token to pick it up? The answer to number 11 is no. That reason can be found on in the FAQ version 1.6 on page 2. Question 12. When playing the control scenario, is it possible for a single unit to claim more than one scoring section of the board? Answer to number 12 is no. The reason can be found on page 45 of the Clash of Kings 2017. Units can only claim one section. 13. In the push scenario, here's an interesting one. Player A has managed to get 2 push tokens into their opponent's deployment zone. Player's A remaining token sits unclaimed in their own deployment zone. Player B managed to grab the center token with a unit that is now located directly in the center of the board. Player B has a war engine holding 2 tokens in their deployment zone, and an individual standing directly on a token in Player's A half of the table. They also have a unit within 1 inch of an unclaimed token in Player's A deployment zone. Which player would be declared the winner? For this one, the answer is Player A. It's because of a score of 4 to 3. The reason for that is each push token is worth 1, but if you're in your opponent, if the unit holding the token is completely in their opponent's half of the table, the token's worth double. So player A has 2 in the deployment zone. That's worth 4. And player B only has the 2 tokens that they're holding in their own deployment zone by a war engine. Yes, a war engine can hold a push token, and the token in the very center of the table, which is not directly, the unit is not completely over the half, so they only have 3 points. Let's see, question 14. Here we go. A dwarf elemental horde charges the facing of an abyssal dwarf immortal guard regiment positioned behind an obstacle. What d6 result would they need to roll to hit them? Well, 14, they need a 5+. The reason for this can be found on page 59, 65, and 110 of the main rule book, or pages 14, 18, and 46 of the player's handbook. Elemental hordes have, elementals have Pathfinder, but Pathfinder only counts for difficult terrain. You do not gain the bonus for Pathfinder for crossing an obstacle. You would have to have Strider in order to be ignored, to ignore the hindered penalty you would take. So the elementals would be -1. And finally, the last question we're going to go over right now. A horde of ogre boomers is equipped with a jar of 4 winds. What will the range of their breath attack be? Well, breath attack is 12 inches. Jar of 4 wind is for normal range, so it doesn't work on a breath weapon. So the ogre boomers with a jar of 4 wind gain no bonus, so 12 inches. And that is page 72 in the main rule book, or page 23 of Player's Handbook. So those are the questions and those are the answers, and a lot of people after the fact told me that, you know, they made sense, and they weren't really bothered by it, but because it wasn't in the actual in the release of what was the tournament was going to be out, we didn't use it. I'm posting this also because there were several comments back and forth on whether having a question thing in a tournament-like setting would be any good. And I, for one, I think it is a good idea to have it because, one, it lighthearted questions and it helps everybody learn a little bit more about the game. And let's face it, you go to a tournament to have fun, meet people, and a lot of people go to drink, but you're gonna go, the main reason you're going to a tournament is to play the game, right? Game's supposed to be fun. Games have rules. If we didn't have rules, then we're not really playing a game. We're making up some stuff like we're 3-year-old make-believe stuff. So it's best to know how the mechanics of games works if you're going to actually play it. So those are my thoughts. Any questions or comments on this? Love to hear it. We'll continue on with the awards ceremony later.
Thank you guys so much for coming to Dragonfall 3. We really, really appreciate it. Without further ado, we have some wonderful awards for you guys.
Yay!
Next year we will have a 2-day format, Saturday and Sunday, and something fun on Friday. So thanks again for the flexibility with the schedule. That being said.
All right. So once again, I'm going to say thank you again for the first UPG event at Dragonfall. Appreciate everybody coming. Hope everybody had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Well, we're going to start off, we're going to do some awards, and we're going to start at the top and work our way down. Best overall, Matthew Schaefer.
Look at that.
Look at the picture. Oh, yeah, that's the picture. Yeah.
All right. Congratulations. Very nice.
Okay. Some people everybody knows, and I don't really want to call his name, but I will because he's from my group. So, best general, Shannon Shoemaker.
How'd this one go?
Best general.
Could be best appearance.
Kara Brown. Thank you. Okay, choice award. Chris Kastner, please. Player's choice. sir. Okay. Very nice. Best sportsman, Matt Timble. Finally, we have wooden spoon. Sue Foreman.
There's another hour left with the silent auction, guys, so go bid. It ends at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Pull it up, whoever gets called, come up, take your choice of prizes, and that's it. So number one, go ahead, Vanna. Number one is, it's coming, really it is. It's coming. Bob Woodhouse.
Hey, who drew that name? Who drew that name? Oh, he's all Bob out here?
I've seen work.
Wow. Got some nice choices, buddy. Oh, I have to hurry up.
All right.
All right.
Okay, number two.
Awesome,
Anna.
buddy. Good job.
Next on the list, Matt Smith. My camera guy. You found yourself grabbing something. Take a picture of her, take a picture of you. Yay. Okay. Next banner. Next is Greg Marcotte.
All right.
Yay.
All right.
Oh, the walking
Matthew Schaefer.
hairless rat.
Enjoy that, man.
Take a picture. Next. We have Mike Carter.
Yay! Congrats, Mike.
An elf army giveaway.
Wait, take a picture. Woo-hoo! All right.
Go, Mike.
Next. We have Matthew Temple. Okay.
All right.
Go, go.
Oh, no problem, buddy.
We have John Carter.
John Carter. All right.
Last but not least, we have
The undead, really? Oh, yeah.
Sue Foreman. Come on, Sue. Come on, Sue.
pick from.
All right.
And I want to go ahead because I didn't mention, I'm sorry I didn't mention these prizes were generously donated by Mantic and Grognard's game. So once again, thank you everybody for coming out. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, Kara. No louder, please.
Can't hear you.
Teacher voice. Gem City Massacre, December 2nd, Dayton, Ohio. There are 3 spots left. We'll be filled at 24 if we get 3 more. People coming from West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, all over the place. People you probably recognize from the internet. So if you're, yeah, like Jesse, he's well famous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Kyle will be there too. So it'll be a really good time. Good small score qualifier, and it'll be a high pointer one too because it'll be over 20 people. So that makes a difference, right? Slight. Yep. It'll probably be the last small qualifier in the region this year. Let's see something.
All right. It's a long ways away, but we do have the date narrowed down for the Lady of the Lake GT. Last weekend of July, July 28th, 29th.
Come camp at my house.
It's going to be awesome. We had 46 players this last time around. 12 different states represented. I think that we have the Ohio crew planning on making the trip over, at least 2. Anyway, I feed you Saturday night. If you're camping at my house, I feed you in the morning, Saturday morning, and Sunday morning. Lunch is also provided. You won't have to buy food basically the whole weekend. So, look it up. Lady of the Lake GT.
Thank you.